Good evening, everyone. My name is Paul Cohen. I'm town manager here in the town of Chelmsford, and I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules. We know this is a very busy time of the year for everyone, and we really want to thank you on behalf of the select board, who's really, the genesis of our town strategic planning effort. And I want to acknowledge our members here this evening, our chair, Pat Wojcik, who is here. She'll have to be departing soon. She has other commitments at the Northern Middlesex Council of Government, which coincidentally happens to be one of our partners here this evening as well on our planning initiatives. We also have Select Board member Virginia Crocker-Timmons, who's also a member of the Strategic Plan Committee, and then our newest Select Board member, Pat Maloney, is off there in the back left of the room as well. So again, on behalf of the Select Board and the Strategic Plan Committee, I want to welcome you to our program this evening. I'm joined here on my far right, to your far left, Vardry Upelian? Close, Vardry, close enough. Vardry is the chair of the town's strategic planning initiative. Many of you are familiar with Vardry. He's very outspoken at town meeting and also serves at our clean energy initiatives for the town. And he's really been an effective leader over the last several months as we've launched our strategic planning initiative. And again, sort of helped organize with all of us our kickoff event this evening, along with our partners. Our consulting partners is Barry Dunn. Charlene Kirangozi is basically been our main consultant on the project from Barry Dunn, and she's here with Jonathan, who's sort of been also the resource person from Barry Dunn, and they're the basically bring the experience and expertise to the table on our strategic planning initiatives. This is I know it sounds trite, but this is a very critical time for our community, which is why the select board and ultimately town meeting forwarded the initiative to start a strategic plan. The world is faced with many challenges, and we are not immune to that in Chelmsford. We're dealing with some major planning initiatives, and it goes across everything from infrastructure to human resources to human relations and everything across our community. On the infrastructure efforts, we're out there every day, and you'll hear me again in a month from now from town meeting. We're out there every day trying to improve the town's physical infrastructure, the road paving, our sewer capacity issues, our school facilities, our fire stations. You see people tabling this evening on the fire station initiative, which is going to town meeting next month and also on the ballot in November. We've also been invited into the Massachusetts School Building Authority for our initiative on a new middle school, at which Dr. Lang has been sort of the fulcrum of that effort, and you'll be seeing that gearing up probably in real earnest about 6 months from now, once we get formally invited in and can begin the feasibility aspect of that project. Right now we're in the eligibility stage, and then that's going to be kicking off. And Pat Maloney, who's on the select board, who has experience in that, will be helping us as the chair of that committee, as we're probably bringing something in the summer of 26 on that initiative. So, and again, we're dealing with sewer capacity, we're dealing with, just the open space issues, and part of what it brings us this evening and our partners with NIMCOG is our open space planning initiatives, also the issues of affordable housing, and that's why we're updating our affordable housing production plan, as well as the new state mandates in terms of MBTA zoning, which we've been formally approved by our bylaw, and we're finishing up our modifications to make sure we qualify to the state, and that will be going out in the next couple of months on affordable housing issues. We also have the new state law on accessory dwelling units that allow by right in all single-family zones the ability for folks to construct up to a 900 square foot accessory dwelling unit by right, and so those regulations are coming in. Just as you can see, massive issues of importance. And then there becomes the issue behind it all, the community character. What do we want our community to continue to cherish, and why did people move here? Why do they stay here? Why do we want to keep them here? Why do we want to attract people here in the future? And so there's all those aspects, and that's just the infrastructure side. Not to mention the financial constraints. We're very close to the town border in Westford. Many of you follow the Westford politics and the Westford dynamics, they had an unsuccessful operational override issue and has resulted in some decline in services. We're seeing that happening in Drake. We're not immune to that in Chelmsford. We'll be dealing with that in the months ahead. So there's the whole issue of how do you, in this period which we've experienced coming out of the pandemic, the unprecedented inflation that we hadn't seen in 40 years, how does the town deal with that when we're constrained with Proposition 2.5 when inflation levels have been above that, and you want to pay workers a fair wage, a market wage? You also want to provide the key essentials of health insurance when you know that your health insurance is going up more than the normal inflation rate. How do we enhance our programs? We know the issues in the schools with individual education programs, the issue of having adequate classroom sizes. All those things come in because at the end of the day, it's sort of like, well, that's your physical infrastructure. But then there's also the human infrastructure in terms of how do we relate as a community? How do we interact with our faith groups? How do we interact with our social groups? Obviously, we're in one of those facilities tonight. The Chelmsford Elks. Let's not kid ourselves. We know the membership challenges that they have at the facility. We know that we see this in the Lions Club, the Rotary Club. We see this across the community. Seeking town meeting representatives is even a challenge these days. We read lists at every select board meeting of our vacancies on boards and committees. It's all pervasive, but the critical challenge and the strategic plan is what businesses do. It's what nonprofits do, and it is what governments do. I mentioned Westford earlier. Westford's about 6 months ahead of us in their strategic planning process, and you'll be reading about their strategic plan in the next months ahead. As I said, we're behind them. We intend to wrap up our events in May, and so the effort here, once we got people back from school vacation and summer, is to kick off with tonight's event, and then we're going to have community forums next month over at the library and at the senior center. Not the senior center because they're going to go in renovation, but at the North Town Hall in lieu of the senior center, and also the CCA, in order to get community input. We've got a survey out there, a social media site, all these things, because we want to hear from you, and we also want to hear from those that we don't normally hear from. And that's what we're trying to do with this evening and what we're trying to do in the weeks and months ahead. And we'll have draft plans and so forth. So, again, thank you for listening to my long-running monologue, but I really can't emphasize enough the importance that we have choices to make, and we're fortunate to have the services of our consultant to get your input on where we should be going in the future in order to provide you with the community that you want going forward. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Charlene, who's going to provide some remarks, and then we'll kick off from there. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Come on, you all can do better than that. Good evening, everyone. I love that. Thank you all for joining. I want to echo what Paul said. This is such an important process for your town, going through a strategic planning process, right? It's not every day that people do strategic planning. So as part of this process, we really wanted to give you all kind of a high-level overview before we start getting into some high-level engagement that you have out there in your tables. Before that, I'm sure you're probably wondering, well, what's on the agenda for today? So at a high level, we're going to do some introductions, and then we're going to have you all maybe do some intros as well, like just let us know where you're coming from and finding a common ground. And then we'll talk about what a strategic plan is, right? So if this is new to you, we want to make sure that we're giving you with the context before getting into the engagement tool there. And then we'll talk about the plan development process, right? Who all is involved? How will this go? What's the timeline? What's the approach? And then you have different planning processes that Paul also talked about as far as all the different initiatives that the town is partaking in. So we want to take a look at what those are and how they actually also align with the strategic planning process. And then from there, we'll talk about the project approach, the strategic plan alignment, as I mentioned, looking to make sure that we're aligning all these planning efforts with the strategic plan. As far as introductions, this is the Barry Dunn team. So we are the town's consulting partner as part of this process. My name is Charlene Kirangozi. I'm a manager with the firm, and Barry Dunn is a national consulting firm based out of Portland, Maine. And we do this work nationwide, helping cities, towns, counties kind of go through their strategic planning process. Most recently, we helped out the town of Holliston with their strategic plan, and they actually adopted their plan early this year. You have other members of my team before I let John introduce himself. So Seth Hedstrom, he is our project principal, so really helping to make sure that we have all the resources that we need for this project. Michelle Kennedy's our engagement manager, helping us as well throughout this project. Karen Wichard, she will be here in the October forums that Paul mentioned, and she's a co-facilitator alongside me. With that, John, I'll turn it over to you.
Hi everyone, my name is John Sullivan. I am currently a consultant at Barry Dunn. I'm serving as a research analyst on this project, helping with plan creation, research, the engagement events, etc. And I've been with the firm for a little over a year now. Before that, I actually worked for the city of Portland. And with that, we will pass it on to Chris.
Hi. So I'm Chris Hayes, Housing and Economic Development Manager for NIMCOG. And you might be asking, what is a NIMCOG? What on earth is a NIMCOG? And why are they here in Chelmsford? We're the Northern Middlesex Council of Governments, the regional planning agency for all of these towns and the city of Lowell that you can see in the picture. And the best way you can think of us is an agency that helps the member communities work together and also basically provide free or very cheap consulting for communities. And we just so happen to be working on a number of plans that my colleague will talk about a little bit later in Chelmsford. So we thought this would be a great opportunity to work with Barry Dunn to make sure that we're all sharing information and sharing the input together. So my colleagues and I will be sitting at the tables, and also I'll say any tablers should come up to the tables so that we're all talking together and learning from one another. And I'll just do a quick introduction of my teammates who are here. Mike Chola, Megan Tenoff, and Isabel. Sorry, I'm seeing who else I need to talk to. Isabel Emmett. And then we also have a lot of other teammates, and I realize there's so many on the screen, I'm not going to say them all, but there's a lot of folks working in Chelmsford, and we're really excited to do so. So thanks for having me.
So, guidelines for effective participation at this event. We want you to speak from your own perspective using I statements, respect others' viewpoints while listening politely, and stay focused on the discussion at hand. Please feel free to ask questions, and also speak in we statements when reporting out from breakout sessions. So before we get started, let's break the ice, one of those classic icebreakers, to find some common ground. So how to play. So you're already in groups, it looks like, and depending on the number of attendees, I think this is pretty good. Each table will form a small group. And what you're going to do is find 3 things in common that each of you within your group have in common. Please don't let it be we all live in the same town or something like that, but more like, oh, we all like dogs, or we all like cats, or just something that you can really connect with each other over. And then after you guys have found common ground, one of you from each group can report out to everyone else on what that was. So we'll give you a few minutes to break the ice. Is everyone ready? Has everyone found 3 commonalities? So we're going to start with this table. If one of you will speak into the mic and hopefully everyone can hear 3 commonalities that you all have.
All right, hello everyone. Stand up. I'm not dressed for it. Hi everyone. So just quickly, our table has the following things in common. Everyone has been here for 30 or 40 years. We all want to keep the town strong, and I think everyone at this table is involved in town government, either committees or town meeting.
Yay. I never get to talk. We had two. I think we discussed the third. We'd like Chelmsford to stay a real town. And we'd like the town reps to speak up a bit more and to have a say in town affairs. And we'd like everybody to remain with healthy. We all have a healthy sense of humor.
We all shop at Market Basket. We all have kids. And we all have college degrees.
We have three things. One was gardening, two was we're all on town committees, and three is bicycling. It's like
Okay, so this table over here, we're all local participants in government, either working directly for or volunteers with local government here. We really are happy with all the local restaurants, but want more. And I think there's more coming. And we are all longtime residents of Chelmsford.
Hi. Our table all love the rail trail and use it on a daily basis. We all love Hart Pond and enjoy that beautiful beach and the lovely setting there. And we all have attended the Chelmsford 4th of July parades.
I definitely know this list on this table. So, Gary would like me to say with pride we are all fans of the Chelmsford fire apparatus. Deb would like you to know that we all wholeheartedly agree that we have the best senior center around. And we all really, really love dogs, and Christine's kids are egging her on for one now. So we'll eventually all be dog owners.
Last but not least, we've all been to Montreal. We all like going to Sully's Ice Cream, and we're all readers.
Thank you all for indulging us in that. We always like to kind of see you all getting to know each other before we get into these meetings.
So before we kind of get started, we just like to set the stage a little bit, right? So not everyone may have a good understanding of what a strategic plan is. So this is what is to be and it's at the Haja. What is a strategic plan? And of course, this come up under the words also taught to stay still. So a strategic plan is intended to identify what the town wants to focus on, right? In 5 years, what is the town intends for like local speed? And it's also meant to be a living document, right? We're not going to do all this work for this plan, sit on the shelf. So we want to make sure that we're identifying very specific objectives that are also measurable and reasonable, right, within the town's confines and constraints to really make sure that it's a document that will help drive discussions about, you know, the budget, any long range plans, and so forth. And it's also a tool for transparency, right? So as the town goes through and develops all these objectives, the goal would then be that on a yearly basis, they're keeping you all up to date in terms of how much progress you're making towards those strategic plans. So again, the strategic plan is we tend to define the what, right? What are we doing? What's our mission? What's our vision? And then the how, we'll be developing those staff, and that's looking at the implementation planning, right? Now that we have all these great ideas, how do we actually implement it? So why do we need a strategic plan? As I mentioned, it's helping you all plan for the future, right? There's going to be a lot of competing priorities. We want to make sure that the town really has that unified vision as to what it wants to be. And it's also helping you all set clear goals and objectives and priorities, so you're making sure that you're identifying where to allocate your resources effectively, but also maintaining focus on what's important to the community, right? So as part of this process, we're really wanting to make sure that we're hearing from lots of voices, right? So having this event here We have a social pinpoint site if you already haven't filled out a survey online, but it's really intended to make sure that people have various ways to interact and engage with this process. So in terms of the plan development process, there's a lot going on, and there's probably lots of events and maybe things I didn't see on the slide. At a high level, the community, your goal is going to be to give us the information, right? What's your ideal vision? What do you want the town to look like? And that feedback will be presented to the town's strategic planning committee and the staff, so we're letting them know, hey, here's what you're really missing, right? Maybe it's more affordable housing, or maybe they have more places for it. We want to make sure that we're getting that feedback from you all. That will all be flowing to strategic planning. And then from there, once we start to develop the draft plan, that plan will come back to you all as well for reviews, right? We want to make sure, can we get this right? Did we miss anything? But ultimately, the strategic planning committee, which you have some members here who are actually here tonight, their goal is, in collaboration with Barry Dunn, essentially developing the mission, developing the vision, as well as the values, right? What are our core values that we should be known for? What's the vision for Chelmsford? And then from there, it's also their goal to develop our priorities. So in addition to a vision, you also want to make sure that you have specific priorities that you'll be focusing on to drive you closer to achieving that vision. And of course, they'll help develop the plan. Now, town staff, once they have some of the high-level parts of the plan that reflect the plan, their goal is to help us to identify the goal statements, right? What are the more specific things that we're doing? What are the strongest things? Again, I mentioned this would tend to be a living document. We want to make sure that we have measures so that we're tracking progress scores. So now this is a little house as intended to help illustrate a really good idea of how strategic plan elements all kind of fit in, right? So your vision is at the top. That's more of your aspirational statement where you want to be 5 years. Your mission is, what does the town do? What's its reason for being? What's the town's purpose? And then under the mission and vision, that you would have a few priorities, right? So oftentimes we try to get clients to have at least 5 to 6, not too many, so that you have you can really focus on a few strategic priorities. And then under those priorities, you would have a goal statement, which is essentially intended to say, if we were to have a strategic priority related to maybe a healthy community, what's the outcome of that? And then under that, as I mentioned, those objectives that town set the effective goal. And then the core values are really, how do we go about carrying out our services, right? What are some core values? Is it maybe we're adaptable, right? To think the best. So in terms of the product approach I mentioned, there's a lot going on. So this is kind of a high level, about a year worth of work and about maybe a minute the outcome to the account. So the phase one is kind of us going through and helping the town identify what do we want this project to look like, what is the success to this project. But also it's very done getting to know the town. We want to make sure that we have all the information that we need to have a really good understanding of the town before we get it started in these efforts. So phase two, that's the phase that we're currently in. So doing a lot of community visions, right? So going through having these meetings, going through the social pinpoint sites that we're really getting a wide range of ideas from different people that will help us essentially come up with an environmental scan. The environmental scan is really more of a SWOT analysis, right? So looking at what are the town's strengths, what are its weaknesses and areas for improvement. And then once we get all that data through all the community feedback, we'll have plan development sessions in phase three. So that's us actually rolling up our sleeves and start to come together with the components of it. And from then, as I mentioned, this plan will go back to you for a review to make sure that we have all of our cases correct. And then the implementation, right? That's a very important part of the strategic plan. You don't want to go plan with non-implementation efforts. We're going to make sure that we have all the tools that we need to be able to disseminate it off.
Go.
So how do we get our information to inform our strategic planning process? As I mentioned, it's really making sure that we're hearing as many voices as possible, and it's giving people as many options as well to do the process. So we've been having community input through the forums, we've been having some interviews and some focus groups. Meeting in the box as well, if you haven't heard of this tool, it's a really cool engagement tool for you all maybe to get we're part of the book club, right? So it's facilitating your own meeting and providing us that feedback so that will be reflected to hear from us as soon as possible. The social pinpoint, that's a community engagement tool that you can find on the town's website. That's also where you can find a survey about this process as well as an idea as well, which is essentially you all giving us your thoughts about an idea. And then we also want to kind of balance that more qualitative data with some hard data as well, right? So looking at your demographic information from the Census Bureau, some economic data, as well as some current town plans as well to make sure that they're all aligned, right? We want to make sure that there isn't conflict between all these different plans that the town is undertaking. With that being said, I'm going to invite Mike up to talk a little about some other plans that the town is engaged.
Thank you, Tom. Thanks, everyone. So as everyone knows, the town has many plans in existence that target specific areas. The Chelmsford Master Plan, the Vinyl Square Plan.
Can you put the mic?
You got to hold it closer. Is that good? Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So each of these plans target specific areas. They go through an in-depth planning process similar to the strategic plan where we look at the existing conditions and get an understanding of where we are at that time and develop goals and objectives based off of community engagement and outreach, surveys, events like this. And that helps us get an understanding of the goals, and then we use that to create strategies and action items to achieve those goals. The plans also show potential funding sources that the town has aligned goals with the organization. So, it shows that the town is serious and has prioritized specific actions and is ready to utilize that funding in the most effective and efficient way. So two plans that are currently in the process between the town and NIMCOG are the housing production plan and the open space and recreation plan. These two plans help create affordable housing opportunities as well as preserve and maintain open space lands and also recreational opportunities. So two areas that really have an impact on the town's the quality of life of the community.
Hey, Jim.
So with the housing production plan, it's a 5-year, the plan's good for 5 years, and it's updated just about every 5 years. It sets a proactive vision for good and affordable housing. It recommends zoning recommendations for changes or partnerships to help further affordable housing. It also serves for other regulatory functions, and it's guided by the Housing Advisory Board. And are there any Housing Advisory Board members here? I think Deb was here. Yeah, so they spend a great deal of time working on this plan and throughout the process to have an approved plan. The open space and recreation plan has a 7-year approval period. It recommends actions to acquire, improve, maintain parklands and open space. It's required for certain grant programs, and it's guided by the Open Space and Recreation Committee. So if there are any members that want to stand up. Peter? It's you get this. And again, both of these planning processes take almost about a year to go to get the final plan. So definitely a lot of work goes into these. Let's give it back to Charlie to tell you how these plans interact with strategic.
Thank you, Bob. So this is just to give you a high-level overview, right? So we're not intending to go too much detail. If you want more detail, definitely come back to our October event. But the way all of these kind of align and sit at the top, so you have your strategic plan, right? So that's the overarching plan that's defining the town's character, the town's vision, that everything should really be looking at the overarching strategic plan. And then under that, you have all these, they call them sister plans, right? That essentially are intended to help support the strategic plan. So think about the strategic plan as more of the umbrella plan that all of the other plans that the town is undertaking will sit under. And even when we start looking at the objectives of the strategic plan, we need to look at what are the objectives of all these other plans to make sure that they're not in conflict with each other and they're also kind of. So that was a lot, enough talking about us. We wanted to now give you all the opportunity to start thinking about what you want your town to look like, right? So at each table, we have some worksheets that I think some of you all always are working on, which is totally fine. But what we're looking from you all is individually just reflect on the questions that are on the worksheet, maybe put some ideas down, and then you're going to discuss on your table, right? Kind of what are some common things that you all are hearing? And then from there, we'll have a scribe that will essentially let us know what each table will discuss. So there are 3 prompts in the worksheet. The first question is, what does the town government does well tonight? The second question is, what are some things that the town government can improve on? And then the third question is more variation fest. So we'll give you all about 15 minutes and we'll check on you as well to make sure that you all within the unit.
If you have a scribe, if you could just let us know what you all discussed, right? So you can report out on either all 3 of the questions or one of the questions. So we'll actually start in the back here and we'll go here.
Is this working? Okay. I think I can sum this up. What was impressive, even though Sue joined us late, a lot of the things she had on the list were pretty good. We were pretty chatty, so we really only got to the first. The first item is what does the town do well? There were some universal themes throughout, and one of them was the fact that the schools are well run. They're an asset to the community. They add a lot of value to the community. The other theme that I think came across well is that we all know that budgeting can be challenging, but we feel like the town's in a very good financial position, unlike some of our neighboring towns, and we're ready to weather any impending storm and hopefully borrow money cheaper with the interest rate cuts today. And the other thing that came across that I thought was interesting was, and I know I'm sitting with some staff members here, but a dedicated staff. And as a user of the services, I can attest to that. These folks are dedicated and work very hard, and they're passionate about what they do. And I think a lot of others see that as well. What was the other one? The big the 4th of July parade events, the services like the library and the CCA and the senior center. Those things were definitely things that I think that we all thought that the town continues to do well. Is there anything else, guys, you wanted us to cover? Oh, yes. That is a true statement, and that's why we are getting that new middle school, I'm sure, but our schools have been well maintained. We know our fire stations have been well maintained, but hopefully we'll be getting some new ones there. And anything else, guys, that you wanted to make sure we mentioned? So no, I think we stuck with those positives. I'm sure we could come up with a list of things we could do better, but we were pretty passionate about those topics.
All right, let's give it up for, let's say, group 6, or whatever group number you all were.
Okay, it's me. We talked so much, I'm not even sure. I think we answered all 3 questions all at the same time. But the thing that the town government does well, very similarly, financial management and planning. Certainly we've seen in surrounding areas what it's like when you don't have that kind of stability and sustainability to your services. So we feel like the town does a great job with that, and that's something that everyone in the community benefits from equally. And then just on what the town should look and feel like 5 years from now, we touched on the idea of character. Asked the very good question, what does that mean? What is the character of a town? And one of the things that the discussion was around was really, Chelmsford is a welcoming place, and in 5 years, how do you maintain that? How do you grow that in everything from what kind of housing do you have that welcomes people from different experiences and backgrounds in? How does that welcoming, how do you support that with walkability and people knowing that they are welcome in Chelmsford and are going to be able to do what they need to do for their own lives? So just looking at really growing that culture and building a stronger and stronger culture of welcoming more people and giving them ways to live in our town.
All right, let's give it up for this group. You were silent. We were silent. Okay. Okay. I see some of you all have some things that you wrote on your worksheet. Would someone want to report out on that?
Unlike most people who've talked, I'm actually not on any town committees. I am not a town rep. I got to say, we do a great job educating our children. The schools here have been phenomenal. My kids are grown and gone, but it's fantastic. Emergency services. I don't know if you've ever had an ambulance have to show up at your house. I have. The fast response and the very professional response, you really appreciate that in that moment of panic. Trust me. The Active Senior Center, it's always busy there. The library is a fantastic resource. And we're very well run. The town, the financial position, and town hall is just so damn friendly when I go in there. So I love that. I want to echo what was just said about welcoming. I think that we do need to be more of a welcoming community. Some of the things I have heard people say in the MBTA zoning was not welcoming. And I did not like that. So I would like that to be a very specific thing that we focus on.
All right, let's give it up for Beth.
Hi, everyone. Can everybody hear? I'm just going to rattle these off. Good town government. I'm sorry. Things the government does well. Good town government, strong financial management, good efforts on open space acquisition, public safety and the public services, thank you, schools and sports, cultural opportunities, enrichment opportunities, best senior center ever, family events, accessible government, and we all felt our DPW was very responsive and doing a good job. Few things we think the town could do better: school buildings and sidewalks. Second, coordination between town boards on complicated projects like town development proposals. They are complicated. Community engagement. And we feel that the town's making a very good effort in trying to communicate with residents through various channels, but it seems difficult to get the average resident to pay attention and get engaged. So that's not really on town government, but it is something I think the town would benefit from strengthening. And then the whole idea of incorporating climate change and sustainability into all town actions. The town's making a lot of progress there. It is a complicated topic as the climate changes, and we get more flooding, more heat island stuff, more pressure on our drinking water and so forth. Ideal world, slow growth, less high rises, but smart development, put stuff in the right place. Maintain a sense of community and a neighborhood feel. Modernize the schools. In an ideal world, we'd be the top 10 school, not the buildings, but the student performance. More public engagement, prepare for climate. And we talked about trying to retain and develop top talent in our town services, schools and town departments. And I say that with trepidation. I think we do have a lot of top talent. I think I would take this comment to be, let's make sure we keep top talent happy and working with us. And finally, we talked about the question of how do you fund all this brave new world, and what do you do about taxes, because that is probably the top hot button for a lot of fellow residents.
Let's give it up.
Okay. The town, on the positive side, on the few things the town government does well, we stay under our budget plan. We do that very well. We said we have a good DPW, and this is kind of funny, road repair. On our town roads, when you call them, they actually get the thing fixed. Sometimes it's a funding challenge, but they get it fixed. We have very good snow and trash removal, and the police and fire departments are excellent. Under the things the town could do better, we need to communicate better with our state via the state reps. We have too much traffic in town, and we need to be more need to be more welcoming to the handicapped and our elders in terms of not putting the TV truck at the town center events in the handicap ramp, for example, and being cautious about putting lots of granite curbs makes it impossible to actually enjoy some of our areas without access. Zoning needs to be, I think, better looked at. We have too much growth and too many condos and apartments, and what we need is some new single-family homes. And we're not talking about the ADUs in everybody's backyard. Under the ideal world, we need to maintain our character. We should look and feel like a town and not a city. We need to be very careful not to cityfy ourselves. We need to maintain and increase our open space. We do pretty well with that, but we're starting to see creep. We need safe education, safe and educated school system. We're doing fairly well on that, but there's a little bit of indoctrination going on both in our town, state, and countrywide. We need to watch out for that. We talked about engaging the town reps from the town employees and the town manager down to the town reps. Call and ask us what we think about a new idea in our precinct. You have all these reps. You have 165 reps out there, and I think Victoria is going to be another new rep. I think we talked her into it, so we're going to start calling.
Let's give it up for Brian and team. Making my way here. Let's see, Joe.
Hi, everyone. So we had a few things here, and we got caught up in some dialogue. And one thing I just want to say, I mean, we all concur that we're doing a good job, just getting it better. But the town services in the schools, things that are doing well, schools, number one, the town offices. I think a lot of people said how friendly everybody is and feel like you're invited in there and feel great. In all departments, I feel. Well, one of the small things that I didn't hear mentioned, but I thought it was very good, is when they shifted the hours, where Tuesday nights is open a little longer. You know, you got to catch it by 1 on Friday, sure, but that is good for folks that are obviously commuting and need to go in there at night. Police and fire. And really, the first responders in town, phenomenal. I feel safe, you know. So, and the senior center, phenomenal. And you know, there's some other things. DPW, I can't thank Christine and the team enough because we meet them in a lot of spots to keep it with 5 square minutes. So that's huge. The communication in the opportunities and what we'd like to see different, and I don't know how, but if it's improved websites and it's more interactive. Where you get your information and how we communicate with the new neighbors. We look around the rooms, most of the same cast of characters are here, same at town meetings, same involvement. And truthfully, when and I make yourselves, run into people, they may know that, they want to know how they can get involved. I don't know what that is. I don't have that magic pill, or we'd have more volunteers for that. But communications, website, I think that's a big opportunity to highlight in Devil. What would like to see? Anybody care to guess what I'd like to see? I'm going to have a vinyl square. We want to see Vinyl Square be done by Mass DOT. So probably 5 years from now, we'd like to see it be in year 1 and 2. That's completed. Everybody's enjoying that, like Town Center. So it's a place to enjoy. More businesses. Even and we had the call with on Tuesday about brainstorming some of the ideas. If we can shift more business, stack revenue, get all the business involved, I'd like to see that. And again, new blood, and like I said, that's communication. And one thing that came up, and my kids are out of school, and I came up as a snitch line or some way that some of the kids in the school, what's Jay here, right? But if there's a way that kids can feel more comfortable, maybe about informing something about something that goes on, it could be bullying, it could be drugs and all that. Maybe if you're a parent now, I hate to hear that, but if it's a reality, how can these kids feel more comfortable about stepping up and being an advocate? And it could be there, maybe it's just not utilized, and maybe there's any engagement from parents to the teachers and all that, but I think that's something that they want to consider as well.
So as far as what the town does well, I think we echo a lot of what we've already heard. The schools and public services, public safety are well thought of, financial management, and open space. I think we're doing a pretty good job with the open space initiatives that we've seen, especially recently with some of the acquisitions that were made. As far as items that we felt to be improved, it was really around, a lot of the discussion was around the growth in the town and how rapid it seems to be progressing, and the impact that growth has on things like water and sewer, which are two pet peeves of mine, personally. I'm on water restriction starting in the spring and does end sometime in the fall, and I had to get off of my septic system to go on a sewer system that's now at capacity, and yet we seem to continue to build out and make that problem worse. So that was some of the concerns. I missed any other concerns around the table? Oh, and quickly, let's go on for quick.
The schools are good for most of you, but the schools don't meet the needs of all. And I think there's marginalized communities in our student body that don't get their needs. This is more my thing, so I don't want to say it's their thing. But I think I don't know if you agree with me, but there's LGBTQ, there's minorities, there's people that are not getting their needs met. Not just not being attempted, but I think it needs more.
Well, let's clap the last group. Awesome. So we've come to the end of our session tonight, but I wanted to say thank you all for engaging in this process. You're probably wondering how we're going to use this feedback that you're providing us. As I mentioned in our strategic plan presentation, this feedback will all be compiled into different themes, right? So I heard a lot of commonalities in the different tables that you all discussed, and those themes will be presented to the strategic planning steering committee for consideration in what to bring into the strategic plan. So again, I want to say thank you again for being engaged, staying involved in the process, right? You all are the special group that were able to come out here on a Wednesday night, and there was so much more people that we could reach, right? So definitely invite your friends to the next forums happening October 8th, 9th, and 10th. There is our strategic planning website on there where you can find more information about this process, as well as fill out a survey if you have not already. That being said, I want to give you all some time back of your evening, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your evening. Thanks again. Yes. Yes, I was actually going to mention that. Thanks for reminding me. Please leave your worksheets. We'll be collecting that for our compilation. Thank you.